How's it going, everybody? We're live on Facebook. We're going to bring up our guest in just a second. New friend, Robyn Hodge. We're going to get to know her a little bit. Let me just share it through the network. And if these shows resonate with you, please share. As we're being suppressed big time on Facebook, like ridiculously, and we would appreciate it. You can share it to your page or to a group if you feel so moved to do so. And also, thank you everyone for your continued love, support, and contributions that allow us to keep doing this. We're going to be hitting the road tomorrow, and we're going to be heading to ultimately to Arkansas to stay with some beloved friends and to work on further expanding this platform we call Soulogy. Hang on, let me get the. All right. I'm just going to share this real quick into the Soulogy Network group and the affiliate groups. Just take me a second, allow some people to get in. Hello, JC. Jasmine. Oh, hey, Jasmine. What's going on? Good to see you here. Had a conversation with her today. It was beautiful. All right. Let's see. Let me just run this through these 12 or 15 groups, and then we'll pull up Robyn. And third show of the day. It's going to be the last one, probably, unless I do something spontaneously later tonight. All right. There we go. All right. All right. Let's get her up here now. How's it going, everybody? Hey, hang on. Let me unmute you. Hang on a second. Okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. I can absolutely
Brilliant.
hear you.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Because
you're over in.
That's okay. I was just going to say, I do have some little earplugs and everything I can put in if required.
It sounds okay. Sometimes there's a reverb if you don't use them, but you sound fine. And
Yes.
you're in New Zealand, right? You're in New Zealand?
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful New Zealand.
So, yeah. So there's always seems to be a little bit of a lag when we do shows in New Zealand, which means it might sound like that we're cutting off each other, but we'll get the hang of it. And it sounds pretty good right now.
Great.
I've got to beg for forgiveness because I'm sure if you sent me a bio, it's and I don't normally read them anyway, but it's in the post announcement. And but uh, um, and any links that you have at the end of the show, if you want to put them in the comments so people can find you and that type of thing, I'm just letting you know now in case I forget. But I don't have. There's too much information going on, and I can't remember. I was actually getting you mixed up with somebody else, and that happens sometimes whenever they're coming into the field because they're coming on the show, and I got to do this and that. But I don't know. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? The famous question here when we're sitting down with somebody for the first time and have a conversation, because it's really not a Q&A, is, when did you wake up? Uh, did you have a, succession of severe traumas like a lot of us and get kicked in the head a little bit? Um, or did it come through in another way?
Right. Okay. So when did I wake up? I feel I keep waking up. It seems to be a
I
sort
like
of a
that
never.
answer.
Thank you. There we go. Right throughout my life. Right throughout my life. And then as soon as I feel that I'm kind of rocking and rolling, it's like, okay, there's something else, like it's another level. It's like a spiral, really. So I
Yeah.
guess for me, when I was a little girl, um, very, very aware of other people's feelings and emotions. And I was very emotional. And I've noticed that like a big spiral back into that quite recently as well, just feeling things really quite intensely, a wee bit more intensely than I would like, actually. But I am grateful. I stay in gratitude.
But that's a great lead in though. I mean, really, it really is. So what you're saying is that you've been revisited by some old patterns or in the spiral. It's come back around at a higher level, recently? Has this been happening recently? Because a lot of
Yeah,
people have been talking about it.
yeah, it's been 2019 has been a pretty intense year. With what I've noticed is some real highs and some real lows. And even as I say that, I'm just going to observe myself as I say it, because even that is an interpretation. So
Yeah.
it's, to me, it's about releasing sort of the stories and belief systems around the stories, and I guess about being totally present. Like, before I come on this, and as you know, I thought I was coming on a couple of hours ago. So I was
Yeah, I'm
already
sorry about that.
there. and and so I was like, I wonder what I'm going to say. I wonder what is supposed to be said in this call together. And I went, looking for some guidance, and things like communication and soul connections, they actually came up.
Well,
And I even went to the cards that I created, and the book that I created, just seeing other messages, just so my monkey mind didn't go running away with things, and I could just allow whatever is to come through to come through.
yeah, that's it. That's what we try to capture here is the spontaneous, creative, intuitive, imaginative, and depending on what we're talking about or doing, courageousness of the
Mm,
soul.
yeah.
Now I do have your bio in front of me, and I took a quick glance and refreshed my memory, and I did want to bring it up because it's kind of unique, and I think it's important to put this out there. Now you are an intuitive channel. You're an author. You're also a what you call a freedom coach for life and business. Now you have a book you co-created. It's a book. Well, let's see, a book journal, motivational, inspirational, and gratitude cards. Here's another interesting part of your makeup: traveler and explorer, 65 countries around the world so far. Decades of research and learning, facing health and life challenges, seeking solutions, inclusive, sustainable ways. Also, business owner and mother, wife, and many, many other hats. You say, I love being a facilitator, seeing your essence and brilliance, supporting you in your unique keys to freedom and navigating these changing times with more ease, peace, and joy. Now, I just have to say something, just
Yep.
because I'm in a funny mood. But
Great.
yeah, ease and grace. We'd all like more ease and grace. I don't know if
Yeah,
there's
I
any ease.
know.
It's funny though because it's so weird. It's so paradoxical. This whole trip in so many ways. But as time's gone on, especially October and this month,
Yep.
it's like things come in, and they come in like a bulldozer,
Hmm.
but at the same time there's this constant expansion of what is the reality setting in, our natural nature, pure love, whatever you want to call it. It's weird though, it's really strange. How's that for you? Does that resonate with you? Do you feel sometimes like you're the higher self and the human aspect kind of like, standing apart from each other? Sometimes the humans observing, sometimes the humans doing, and vice versa.
Yeah. Oh, look, I hear you loud and clear, and I hear you on so many levels. What I notice is that I love being the observer of me. And what I mean by that is it's much easier being you and observing you and not getting entangled
Yeah.
in the stories that go on. And what I noticed just recently is it was like going into a freight train, and it was like I was so mangled up and entangled in that freight train. And what I mean by that is I hear different amounts, but we'll say 60 to 70,000 thoughts go through a head a day. And I
Mm.
felt like I was entangled in all those thoughts and all. And the interesting thing is, you've got to remember of that, there's claims of that being 98% of them at times can be negative thoughts. And I
Hmm.
just felt them really, really strongly. And what I noticed was um, it was like all the old stories and all the things that had been said to me that hurt my heart, they and hurt my soul. They were just coming back to me, and they were coming back to me, and I was to just take a look at every single one of them, and they're all coming in like this freight train, and I felt so sad, and I'm like, oh my goodness, am I actually going to be able to get out of the sadness, because this seems such a lot, and what am I going to do? Am I going to
Was
go
this?
into a dark depression?
Yeah.
This
Was
is
this
recently,
Yeah, yeah. And other
like
people
in a
have said
weekend.
that.
Yeah.
Other people have said that, particularly the period of like from the last couple of days of October through, I don't know, maybe the 10th or 11th or something. But a lot of people have talked about that. You know, one of the things I find really fascinating, talk to so many practitioners, is how their practice is evolving. Because as their own experience is evolving, you know, because one thing about this spiral that you're talking about is it keeps us on your toes, and it also keeps you humble. but but
Yeah.
one of the things that I find fascinating is the telepathy thing, uh, where it's becoming more and more visible, okay, or prominent, or identifiable. And then in terms of my own, this would be really my own stuff, I guess, but I also observe it in others, how we navigate when this stuff comes up. Because how does this stuff come up? It comes up, like you said, these thoughts just pop in, like, where did that come from? Like, I got to go see this part of the spiral again and get dunked in the goo. Or something will happen. You'll see something, or someone, okay, will trigger you. And I think it was about 2 years ago, my wife started talking to me, at least I started, I guess, listen and understand in terms of working the energetic fields and working with the energy of whatever it was that I was challenged by, or whatever the case is, imbalance with. And it actually worked for me very well. But I watch it now, and I'm going to bring up this post real quick. I saw it today because you made me think of it. And it says, step one, became woke. Step two, you try to tell others how to live their lives based on how woke you are, now that you believe you are. And we've all done that. When we first woke up, we go out and you see all these posts, and people are saying, why isn't anybody listening to me? You know, and then you finally, it says step three, become more woke. And then step four, realize you know nothing. And finally you shut the F up. And step five, you learn to listen. And in that context, I have played with working through the energetics to have, you know, to break bread and to come to balance with whatever the situation or the person or whatever it is, and have had some success. I don't know if it's foolproof, because I just find that the more I open my mouth and engage that old irrational conditioned template, it doesn't work, and I end up, with my, with my tail between my legs or whatever. As a practitioner, have you seen this telepathy coming into more prominence? Has it altered your methodologies and working with people and coaching people, and even in your own, journey navigating this transition?
Right. Okay. What I heard from you when you were speaking, when you started speaking there, I just straight away like felt like a pang in my heart. So it's like
Mhm.
hitting the heartstrings. And what I'm noticing is there's, I think we talk about veils. It's like clearing away the veils. My big thing is I part of me. Okay, part of me is here showing up, and that 80%
Mm.
of our role is showing up, and that's all I'm to do is show up. Okay, now it's navigating this world because there's so much change going on. So, what I'm noticing in my practice, I'm actually wanting to just step away, and just by showing up, that people can see through the veils, they can see the integrity, they can see their loving awareness. So I don't need to do anything else other than be.
Mm.
I don't have to
Yeah.
tell anybody to do, say, anything. I just be, and it's like that magnet that the right people are attracted to you. So I guess what I'm saying there, that sort of that telepathy, that's just trusting like mad that the right people, the right situations, everything is unfolding perfectly. And it's this whole art of allowing. So my practice, when you're asking about that, I'm just like, in a way, I'm kind of like, hands off. I keep going to step back, but there's still where we are, that I want our words and who we're being to line up, that people just know and they see us and they see our truth. They're attracted. We don't have to do anything else, and everything just falls into place. Like in my book, I did a thing about beyond money. So it's going beyond that, beyond all the veils, just showing up, right people, right actions. And money is a form of energy. So the right energy is there, that we're looked after. We don't have to do all the sort of business analysis that we used to. I don't know, am I making any sense? This is just what's coming through to me, as I said, and I hope it's kind of answering your question.
Yep. Yeah, I'm just making sure that you finish, because it'll start to reverb, but it's working fine. No, I totally get what you're saying. The energy of what you're saying is answering the question. And I guess another way to put it is, it is not outside the realm of possibilities in my mind that a practitioner, which I'm not, could actually, along the lines of what you're talking about, the person comes in, you sit down, there's a space created, and nothing's even ever said because we're dealing with the higher senses, frequency, vibration, light, sound, whatever. And more and more, one thing about, and I've been saying it all day today because everybody was a practitioner. I said, a lot of these practitioners over this past year have talked about how their practice has changed, how their methodologies and their processes and modalities have been modified or altered or left behind for new ones. And that speaks to me because obviously everything is paralleling into this, in this expanded collective consciousness. More is available, and would only make sense that that in all aspects of our lives, the universe is not going to let us stand pat on anything. So I totally agree. I think that, yeah, we could certainly be in a silent existence, basically, from a human aspect, from a human perspective. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like the silence comes first, because that's the presence, and then you can speak.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but what you're speaking from is a new place, a new space. Like when you and I are having this conversation, we've got no idea what is coming next. There is that art
Yeah.
of allowing that it is all working out even better than we can imagine. That sometimes this better than we can imagine is, like, for example, today, as I mentioned, like I was set for like a couple of hours ago, and then it was like, no, it's going to be 1 o'clock. Can you do that? I'm like, yep, I can. And I'm like, this will be fine. I'll just reorganize, the appointment that I'd set, for now. And it was really, really fascinating, because it was like, oh, what's going on here? Because the person I had to connect with, they were quite finite on times. And it's like, oh, I didn't expect that. It felt quite rigid. And it's like, but I want my cake and eat it too. So I want to be on this show with Todd, and I want, because the other thing I was doing was some volunteer work, and I'm like, I want to do that as well. I want to do both. And it was like, it was becoming a little bit tricky to do both. And I'm like, I set the intention and then allow the unfolding, and don't get caught up in the story of how it is currently looking, because sometimes we get so caught up in the story of how it is currently looking. It's about like when someone is ill. The illness didn't just get created in this moment. It was the thoughts and process and habits that had been accumulating before that moment. And it's come as a gift. to maybe allow you to see something you're not willing to see yet. It's like the
Yeah,
little
it's
nut.
weird. Yeah, it's weird. I get what you're saying. Like, it's stimulating my mind. I mean, so like if you look, it's almost like the reverse. So like if you look at how we got encumbered, the conditioning, the programming, whatever,
Mhm,
shadow,
mhm,
it's actually the same science but backwards. you know we're here, we actually allowed, of course we were given our consent for a lot of things and we didn't understand
mhm,
the dynamics of it and the expanse of it, going into multidimensionality and all that stuff. But what you're saying is true, and I can give an example, like just in my own situation the last couple of days. So we've been stuck in a remote cabin, and we're blessed for that, don't get me wrong, but our car's been in the
mhm,
shop, it broke down, which is a big deal for us because that's pretty much our home. So that's
mhm,
important. So obviously you have let's just call it the 3D pressures and this and that. So that gives the opportunity for the mind to get engaged with why is it this working and what's happening and what's blocked and this and that. And I keep watching this, and I've actually been watching this for 3 years since I've been doing what I'm doing, and I left my home. And I don't think there's a word for it, but there's like an energy. I see it always at like a ball. Like I see this energy and it actually works, and it actually aligns stuff and creates stuff. So anyway, as an example, we yesterday was a pretty powerful day in a very good way. Morgan received a huge download, brought her to tears. And I guess what I'm saying is the carrying the frequency of allowing, which I think is a little bit different than surrendering. Okay. And surrendering is good too, because I'm surrendering all day long, every day.
mhm,
But it
mhm.
actually, when you let it go, what's happening, what you're talking about is happening. It's happening with us. And I know it happens with a lot of people. It doesn't just come in a trickle. It comes in like in like just like a waterfall, I mean, that abundance or whatever you want to call it. So we turn around and next thing you know, a couple of good things happen, well, we got a little some contributions in because we were really didn't have anything. And then I wake up this morning and I get this message, and this picture of an RV pops up, and it says Todd and Morgan on the Soul Highway. And it's someone I'd never met. And this isn't about that, it's about the energy of abundance. And I ended up having a conversation with this person who happens to live in the place we're headed for. Can you imagine? In the 48 continental United States, we're headed to the one city where this person is, who has been watching us for a year, and who said, I'd like to offer this up, for 3 or 4 weeks. And if you guys need it, this is the new math. This is the new spirit science. I mean, it's
Yes.
get out of the way, surrender and allow, and turn that thing off, you know.
Mm,
And
mm.
I think people are making progress with that. Are you seeing that in your own experience, particularly with your practice, or even in your own life?
What I'm noticing is sometimes the analogy comes up for me like a pot. Like you've got this pot, and when you start cleaning this pot, the water gets really murky. It gets really, it's pretty murky. And then, but then eventually it clears. So it feels to me like um, things are coming up, but they're only coming up to be surrendered, to be cleared, to be released,
Mhm.
to allow more goodness in. And I use the words of goodness, and I'm very aware of the interpretation of words as well, because there's a saying of there is nothing is good or bad, it just is. So it's in the isness.
Mhm.
And I often call that isness being like good, like you're in the right place at the right time, even if it doesn't feel like that. And what I
Yeah.
am noticing is it's very interesting on our online world, because I've actually struggled a lot with the online world, because you are what's coming up is that you are it's too much external validation, okay? And if you're not getting
Yeah.
external validation, there can be, well, what's wrong with me? You know, what do I need to do differently? You know, am I not good enough, or I just don't understand. I thought that what I'd
Yeah.
shared was really good and it was from the heart and I did all those right things, but it doesn't seem to hit the spot. Nobody seems to be seeing it or following it or liking it. And that can shift you into a spiral of saying what it is self-validate. You know, you've got to self-validate. And that's what I'm
Yeah.
having to be doing a lot of, is self-validation. You've got to give it to you first. And in, you know, like our online world is wonderful, but it also has us relying on everybody else to say, oh, you're good enough. Oh, that's wonderful, you know? So you are already good enough. You are amazing. Every single one of you is incredible and has gifts and stories and messages to share. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And isn't it an incredible implement into this transition, the internet, the social media, and because you're right, and there's also a flip side of that. You get a bunch of um, attention, and it can threaten the other end of the ego. Instead of feeling like crap, you
Yes.
feel like
Yes.
you're
Good
incredible.
comment.
But I do think, but it's interesting because I think it's been a really good tool for people. It's also been a good tool because it's allowed us to actually feel energy. You know, I mean, if you look back 7, 8 years ago when this stuff started to really start to take hold, you know, people could send images. You get an energy off someone. Now, it also helps us sharpen our discernment because sometimes what you see and what is there isn't always the same thing. I don't know. It's a pretty complex thing. I think it's a great gift, but I see what you're saying, and that's absolutely true. You know, to thine own self be true, and I think that's what's happening, and that's what I'm observing anyway. The last couple of months, even shadowed expressions by people, even finger pointing, I'm seeing people step into their power, even if they're not doing it in a perfect way. The trajectory of what's happening is leading me to, is help. It makes me very, positive and optimistic about, more than optimistic about where we're heading. And on that note, you've been doing this a long time and you've traveled all over the world. What do you think's going on right now? I mean, there's been a lot of stuff written about ascension going back to the new age, and then I think this is a little bit different. I'm not saying there's one that's better than the other, but let's say call it light workers or first wavers or this community, whatever you want to call it. But what do you think's happening? There's been a lot of stuff said. There's going to be an event. There's going to be this. There's going to be that. We're all going to be walking on. I mean,
Yeah.
what what do you think's happening? 2020 seems huge. What are your thoughts on it?
Okay. What's coming up for me, Todd, is just with your sharing there's something that is just sticking really strongly to be voiced. And that was when you mentioned about the ego. And so the ego being full of myself. Now, the ego is not full of yourself. It's like full of others. That's the big ego, because you're full of all the external validation sort of going into you. And then there's the small ego of feeling insecure and doubting. So they're both egos. So why am I saying that, and how does that relate to what is going forward? Because I see that it's about like an uprising and a clearing. It feels that 2019 has been like it's like a volcano. And it's interesting actually, now that I even say that, I've been working on my clear senses. So my big thing is like I sense things, and then these words come to be spoken out. And what I have been working on is the clairvoyancy, so the clear seeing. And what I've been seeing lately is like a volcano, and I feel like we're like this volcano. So there's a lot of friction going on,
Yeah.
and it's coming out to sort of explode and just be big and clear, like clear the way. So it's all those old patternings and old things, just a clearing. So I'm then, let's feel into this. What happens is I notice I get colored. I get colored by what I want to see compared to what I feel is showing up. So I have like a wanting to see of that we can see through things, like literally, that we just know somebody's a good person, because as I sort of mentioned before, everyone is good, everyone is amazing, everyone has gifts to share, and sometimes it is you know, the yin and the yang, you know, the diversity, the different opinions. And what I feel is I'd like to see is like a more unity, that more coming together. I know in Ayurvedic, you know, they talk of this time, I think the words is like sattva. So it's, there's a lot of things that feel that this time coming, you know, like from 2020 is really good. But what is really good? That is perception. Even 2019, this is really good. This is incredible. You know, I'm just actually being called to see something to read out in the book. Right. What am I supposed to say? I'm supposed to tell you something here. Okay. I hold up my head to face the world. This is about success settings. I hold up my head to face the world. Before I face the world, I must be able to face myself. As I bow down, I remind myself I may have down moments during which I learn to rest in my inner being. I close my eyes and feel the strength and balance within my being. Making it happen. Break it down into manageable bites, one step at a time.
Yeah, I don't think we have a choice in that matter. I think we're essentially forced to, and you know, and that is what's interesting too about what's been happening recently. What you talked about, which is this spiral coming back. You know, it's like it's coming back to be looked at again. Which
to go deeper, a deeper knowing and unknowing.
Yeah. And I like what you said too about questioning it too. I had you know, we lay down every night, as everybody knows, and we connect, palms clasped, and it's always something different. And this particular night a couple of weeks ago, it was, you know, somehow you know, it was entwined within everything we were doing. But the individual part of it for me was all of a sudden I started seeing all these situations, people, and other images, and they would say, "What do you see?" And I'd say, "This is what I see." And they'd say, "Judgment." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I am judging that." And so it kept taking me through this montage of different things. And what would happen is that whenever I said, "Oh, okay, I'm looking at that through these eyes of judgment," and these judgments weren't like, "Oh, that's good, that's bad." These are like what you're talking about, you know. And it was a question. It was like a line between questioning and judgment. But when I removed it, it immediately like turned into this ball that I was talking about earlier, like this ball of light. This is the creative force. This is the vision of the creative force. So I think judgment has been a big deal, especially the last 2 or 3 months, that has really come up for everybody, particularly to your point, first and foremost, self-judgment, you know?
Yeah, because that's where it all begins. And it's so annoying, isn't it? It's kind of like, I thought I'm doing pretty well here, and then you see stuff showing up on the external, and you're like, okay, that's interesting. That's interesting, because then it's being really, really conscious of yourself, and what's a projection and what's not, and judgment. Self-judgment. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
You just got the reminder there of gratitude is riches, complaint is poverty. So even in these quotes, there is judgment.
Yeah. Judgment's taking on everything's taking on a new definition. Like we talk about on the show. Like you wake up tomorrow, all the rules changed. You
Right.
know, like
Yeah.
what served us through yesterday doesn't serve us anymore because we have a higher level of awareness. We can see more. One of the things I
Yes.
liked about what you said when we talked earlier, and you were talking about your practice and how that looks. I really liked what you said, the connotation, the connotative energy of I just have to show up, you know. And you said, I think you said that's 80% or so. I don't know, remember what it was exactly, but if you look at the overall, if you look at the general, say the macro of us being here, we showed up. First and foremost, we showed up, and we made that choice. You know, people talk about free will. I think that the more important free will, or the one that we would maybe not take a look at, is the one that we exercise before we came out of the womb in this incarnation. But I like what you said. You know, we showed up, and for so long, and I've been involved in this since like 2014, as far as like this goes, as far as like interacting and connecting and observing on social media. But you know, for so long we've been the small human, and digging in the shadows and beating ourselves up and finger pointing and judging. But at the same time, there's been this elevation, and there just seems to be an energy that's been freed up. Like there's less resistance, and our magic is coming to the fold now, because something, maybe it's our own allowance, I don't know, or maybe the universe is matching it. But yeah, just like you were talking about with your session showing up, I think it's so important we start giving ourselves some credit, which goes back to what you said earlier about self-validating, which is actually connected to self-judgment.
Because what I noticed, and I was writing about yesterday, it was like when the thoughts were coming up, what actually happens is you think other people are judging you, you know, because what I've heard is like a lot of lovely people, you know, say things about other people, and to me it doesn't sound very nice. So that even that is a judgment, because I've decided, well, that doesn't sound very nice, and then I feel contraction, and I feel afraid to speak up myself, so that I'll be judged and criticized and talked about negatively. And then what I realized was that may have occurred in the past. It's just like what you were saying, Todd. When you wake up each morning, clean slate, but there's all this baggage, you know, that we've got, and all these trips that we've been on
Well, there's
around the
new,
world and in the
yeah,
galaxies, and we've got all that with us, and so what we're afraid of is actually in the past. It's happened already, but we're bringing it into our future. We're bringing it into the now. So what actually happens? We're scared that this will happen, that'll happen, and it's like, well, actually, that has happened. You faced it. You're still showing up. So it's happened
that's right.
already. You can let it go. And it's like, oh no, but that's used to being in my handbag. You know, that's part of my who I am. That's part of my identity. And it's like, oh, says who? You know.
Yeah.
So the criticisms and the things that we're afraid of is
Yeah, I
actually
think,
everything we've built up and
yeah.
put in. You're going to say something amazing.
You there?
I'm still
Did I
here.
lose you or lose me?
Um,
Oh, okay. No, I got the
yeah.
very end of
Oh,
that.
that's good.
God, I had a good one.
I know
I
you
had a
did.
good one for you.
Yeah.
Oh, here it goes. We're rocking the we're rocking the we're rocking the energetic vibes here, man. God, what were you talking about? Oh, yeah. And so, yeah, you know, we all know we're unconscious of shadow within ourselves. We also know that we can't trust the data coming in necessarily from, let's say, other humans, because they're in the same boat we're in. They're skewed just like we are. But one of the advantages that I think is starting to take hold, because you're not seeing as much projection out there in the communities. You're not seeing as much. It's still there. It's at a deeper level. But what I think people are starting to come to is the gift that observing others, what makes you uncomfortable, who irritates you. Oh, they were mean to that person. That it's a great clue or a step towards your own expanded awareness of a shadow you didn't see in yourself, which would then lead you to the gold. So I think, for everything we damn, there's a gift to it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
and the internet's
Yeah.
a perfect example. It's a perfect example. And
Yeah.
and back to give credit where credit's due. We are here. We are taking hold as a group. I mean, around the world, this grid is lighting up, and I think it's not even, there's nothing we can do about it. I think that it's just going to continue to expand and expand, and it's going to affect us in the most intricate parts of our lives. I think we're headed for one heck of a show this coming
Yeah.
year.
What was coming out to me was like soul connections, unconditional loving. And I know like unconditionally loving was really, really important to me. And I started getting really critical of myself, where I saw that I may not be doing that. And I was super, it was like that supersonic. And it's like, we have got to start being much kinder to ourselves. And as we do that, that reflection embodiment comes up. Now, that just popped out to say, and I'm kind of like, oh, hold on, I've just said that. Now, did that relate back to what Todd said? Do you see what happens? It's kind of like, we want to be here. I want to be here. I want to show that I'm really listening to you. And then sometimes I'm just so sort of encaptured, just feeling into what you're saying, and it's like, oh, am I actually responding to that? Because this is just suddenly what's come up for me to say. And I mean, and one of the things I notice in our communication is that we all want to be seen, heard, and valued, every single one of us.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
if
and
we're
it's
not,
tricky. No, but that's very true. Yeah, that's very true. My wife always says a copy is a copy is a copy. So if you look at, like, say, your inner, people say the inner child, you know, um, it's probably more like inner children that make us up.
we've got a whole
Most
army.
ultimate, but this is it. They were ignored. They were suppressed. They were tortured. They were whatever. This is part of our healing, metaphorically or not. And the same goes outside of us. And so it's interesting because you just said a great thing in that you're having a conversation with someone, you're listening here, but you're also got this other higher sensitivity part of you that's coming into fold and expanding, and we're getting used to it. We're actually remembering, but I mean, we're getting used to functioning. And so it's kind of like, I don't want to say two steps up, one step back. I think it's more like, the middle of the road's here, and we kind of sway over a little bit too. And then, sometimes, but we're getting our feet on the ground, and we're leveling off. And I think that's another good sign. People being able to get triggered, process, align, put it behind you, and move forward. What's the difference between a story that happened yesterday and one that happened when I was 10 years old? Once we get what we need, we align with it, integrate it, boom, and we head on down the road. And I think people are doing that more and more rapidly. They're talking about it, and they do a lot of that on this show too.
And what I want to say to that, now this is interesting, Todd, because what I want to say to that is if you're not feeling that way, that you feel like you're going round and round in ever decreasing circles, that you're aware of that. That's amazing. That is incredible, because sometimes it will feel like you actually are not making progress.
Exactly. Exactly, it will.
That's
And let me ask you this, in your
Yeah.
own experience, like that's what we were just talking about, like my own situation here in the last couple of days, our own situation. And so I looked at like this new friend offering the use of an RV. I looked at it, you know, obviously you look at it literally, but I saw the energy, and the energy was congruent with things that had occurred over the, say, the past 12, 18 hours. It was a universe winking at us saying, we got you. And then my mind went to, okay, we were just having conversations a few hours before this period started of what's blocking us. And I kept hearing like nothing. That is a judgment. Something's
Yeah.
blocking me, right? And maybe that applied, and I'm not saying it still doesn't. I'm just saying that something's changing. Like these things don't apply. Like they come in your head and they don't have anywhere to stick. They just go. They're like, okay, that's not part of our world anymore.
Yeah.
It's almost like we don't have to work as hard for it.
I love what you're saying. And when you talked about the blocks, something I used to say, and this is the thing, there would be things that I used to say, and I'm checking, is this still relevant to say now? Is this still serving us now? And one way I saw that the blocks was they're stepping stones. So everything's like stepping stones. So they're not blocking us, they're allowing us to see from another perspective. Because you think about it, when we expand our perspectives, then we really get that nothing is good or bad. And that's really interesting, because sometimes that can be a trigger for people. Well, actually, I think this is good and this is bad. And it's like, that's when that gratitude muscle has just got to come in. And if you don't feel that it's good or it's bad or whatever feelings, it's like acknowledge. We've got to acknowledge what we feel, even if the masses are feeling differently. And this is sometimes, it's like, they're all kind of, they're feeling that, and I'm not. They're appearing as if they're really successful, whatever successful means, because it's different to each of us. And so what's coming up there is that reminder of that comparison game of going, you're right where you need to be. What you got, where you are, this is perfect. Instead of a block, what is that next step? I don't know yet. And that's okay. I will show up.
Right. Well, that's right. And that's why, God, this whole thing, the what do you want to call it? The lack of continuity, failure, whatever you want to call these loops. Done. We've worked on it. We've all worked on it. We've all worked on ourselves, and we're done with it. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's starting to play out to me. Instead of like, where's the deep dark shadows? Instead of that, it's starting to play out like in the moment by moment, where, okay, I can't be sarcastic anymore. I like to laugh. I can't make jokes that are sarcastic. I can't be spiteful, because these things, we're not carrying the energy of what we truly are. We're still carrying this old program, but it's now getting into our intricacies, into the intricate parts of our behavior in a moment by moment, thought by thought basis. You know what I mean? It's really getting kind of freaky.
Okay, I'm just doing a wee tap on the book. Do you want to, Todd, if you're up for this, do you want to pick a number between 1 and 163?
Yes.
Okay.
1 and what?
163.
1 and what? What between 1 and what?
Between 1 and 163.
1 and 63?
No, 1 and 163.
Oh, okay. Between one. Okay. Okay. I'll pick a number. I will pick number. I will pick number 96.
Oh, fabulous. Fabulous. Okay. All right. I've just had some self-validation myself because when you're kind of thinking, he's going to say 9 somewhere. So that's like the spiritual awakening, the community. What else? What other hits am I getting? 90s. Oh, and the detail. Releasing some of this detail and being in the moment, being present. Okay, I'm supposed to read something from this page. 96. Oh, I love it because I don't know, it's kind of reminding me of that sort of unity and infinity, because the 6 and the 9 go together. That's the masculine and the feminine, sort of that divinity, sorting yourselves out. And you know what is the coolest thing about that? 96 is a blank page. It is a blank page. You can rewrite your story.
Wow.
Isn't it so cool? Because that's what we're talking about. And the next one was actually chapter 9,
cool.
which is about kicking fear and worry to the curb. Be the reason someone believes in the goodness of people. Connection.
Yeah. You mentioned gratitude a while ago, and
Yep.
my signal is really bad. You're being heard thoroughly, but over here I'm not picking up everything, but I'm getting all of it. You talked about gratitude. You have some cards that you co-developed, and I believe they're called gratitude something cards. Can you tell us a little bit about that before we run out of time? I want to make sure that you have a chance to explain that.
Okay. So what you said earlier, Todd, was that I'd sort of co-created, some, like book and journal and cards. And in the cards is gratitude cards, the inspirational and the motivational cards. And the book that I actually wrote, that's Keys to Freedom, How to Unlock Your Ability to Thrive in Changing Times. That book was co-created with the universe. Then the journal and the cards, they were co-created with the universe and a gorgeous lady, Carla Taylor, who's in New Zealand as well. And when you were saying about gratitude, I just pulled out a card to see what it was to say to us. And be grateful for what you already have while you pursue your goals. If you aren't grateful for what you already have, what makes you think you would be happy with more? I'm right where I need to be. I am grateful. So
wow.
the cards, the Keys to Freedom cards, are to go individually or with the book. They're to offer those reminders, those inspirations. And the inspirational ones, I have little quotes that are from the book, and there'll be like a page. So you can go to like our site, robynandcarla.com, and we've got a sheet there which sort of gives some other inspiration and guidance, so it's basically all to support and nourish you wherever you are at. And they're like little sprinklings of reminders from the universe that are there that you can have or you can share with others. And then I just picked up a card from, this is what the box is. I've got an orange box as well that matches the book. But all life is an experiment. And the more experiments we make, the better. So this is a playground that we're exploring. And I'm just here to be the best version of me that I can be, and in doing so, raising the consciousness of the planet. And how I do that is by simply being here now.
Yeah, I'm having a little difficulty hearing you, but I heard most of it. I got the gist of it. And and I just want to say thank you for, you know, the service to humanity that you've been doing and continue to do. Um, make sure, if you would, to put your links into the comments. And just want to thank you for rescheduling. I think that was on our end. We had a time zone change or daylight savings or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. And I don't know if there's anything you would like to do. We've got just you know, a few minutes, but is there anything that you would like to do or say or talk about? The floor is yours.
Okay. Well, what should we do? What should we say? We've got a few minutes here. Do you want to pick another page? Do you want to pick another number?
Yeah, we can
Play
do
with
that.
that. I love doing this because then it gets me out of my thinking mind as well, just to go, oh my God, I love how that just marries up with the whole conversation, you know, that we have had. Allowing this and something better to work out well.
Yeah. We gotta use the magic. We gotta operate by the new operating system. I'd pick 129.
129, 1, 2. Okay, so it's the new heart-centered leadership. When I get there, it's like not necessarily in the heart. It actually can be in the control center of your mind, because we've got to actually make friends with our mind, the heart and the mind, working together really, really beautifully and cohesively. A two of the balance of all aspects of ourselves. And another level of spiritual awakening. Gosh, it never ends. I think that's something about calling breathing. While we're alive, the learning and the unfolding seems endless. This is not a blank page this time. It is on the chapter about doing your best in handling overwhelm. Okay, this is what's been called out straight away to read out. To handle any feelings of overwhelm, remember, you always have the freedom of choice. Even when it seems you are being pushed up against the wall with nowhere to go, you still get to choose how you want to feel about it. Regardless which country, religion, or beliefs you hold, in that moment, ask for help. Ask your elevated team. And you are your elevated team. We are the elevated team together. Please show me the way, the best way for me to handle this, the highest for me and all. I love you. I am listening. Thank you. Now, see what shows up.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool indeed. All right. Well, I just want to say thank you for honoring us with your presence and sharing space with us today and the crazy energy. I look forward to future collaborations, and if we ever get over to New Zealand, maybe we'll run into you. We've got a lot of friends over there, so
come to Christchurch.
I think we're all going to be traveling like you have in your past before too long. Yeah. So and don't forget to put your links in the comments too. Okay.
Todd, thank you so much. I look forward to doing lots more beautiful collaborations together. It has been a delight and a pleasure to meet you, to be here with the audience, and I thank you.
Thank you too. You have a wonderful rest of the day, beloved sister, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Sounds fantastic.